Hello friends, welcome back to the Lynn's Handmade Designs YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk all things leather, cork, and vinyl, and all the questions that come with them. Now, I personally write my patterns often calling for leather, cork, or vinyl because I like the way that they wear in bag making. They're durable, they look high quality, and your bags are going to last way longer using vinyl, cork, or leather over quilt cotton. Now, there is a place for quilt cotton in bag making way over there. But as a general rule, I'm not a fan. I really am not a fan. I mean, when I was a baby bag maker, I started off with quilt cotton as well, and I have since seen people love them to death, and I'm appreciative of that. But I've seen it wear completely through the quilt cotton down to the interfacing, and I was horrified to see that. If you think about bags and wallets and what they go through, I mean, you're opening and closing, you're shoving wallets into a bag, it's wearing against your body as you walk, you're setting it down, hanging it up. It really needs to be able to withstand some serious wear and tear. And that's why what leather, cork, vinyl, wax canvas, all of those more durable materials are what I would heavily recommend for bag making over quilt cotton. Sorry, I had to say it. Now let's just jump into the most common questions that I get asked about leather, cork, or vinyl. How do I choose the right cork or vinyl? Good question. Now when I say vinyl, I'm also referring to faux leather, vegan leather, all the terms that get thrown out for vinyl. In my opinion, my personal opinion, those are all the same things. Now sometimes there is faux leather fabric that's designed for clothing. We want to avoid that entirely. It's got a lot of stretch and it's not cut out for bag making. What I'm talking about is the stuff that tends to be more used for like upholstery stuff. It's on the upholstery rolls in the fabric stores or online. It's geared towards bag making. So vinyl, do I need to interface it? That's an excellent question. And in the beginning when I was using vinyl, I was like, no, why would you interface vinyl? That's the whole purpose of it. It eliminates that step, yet it's still durable. It was one of the things that I loved about vinyl. But now with these small shops coming out with a wide variety of vinyls that are printed and fun and amazing, we've got a lot of options now, but they're not all the same. So to break it down, some vinyls have a woven backing, a fabric backing, or a suede-like backing. They're all different. So if you find a vinyl you like, stick with it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to experiment, as I have. You're gonna buy the vinyls and you're gonna try them out and you're gonna see how well your machine handles it, because only you know your machine and if your machine can handle it. And unfortunately, since we are buying a lot of our vinyls online versus being able to go to the store and unroll it, feel it, crumple it, see how much stretch it has, we kind of have to trust the listing description, or we're going to take recommendations from our fellow maker friends as they describe it as best that they can. So here's a vinyl, for example. It does have a fabric backing. As you can see, it kind of stands upright well on its own, so it's got a nice temper. Now when I say temper, that means how stiff it is. Is it really drapey and soft and stretchy? Or does it hold its shape? It can be thin, but have nice temper, meaning it's thin, but it can stand up on its own. Now, if you need it to be completely not drapey one bit, you're gonna need to add interfacing. Now, a general rule of thumb that I personally follow when it comes to do I interface my vinyl or I don't, is just like my leather straps, if it's thick enough that I'm gonna fold my long edges to the center and then it's got enough structure and strength as is, then it doesn't need interfacing for the body of the bag or for my strap. Sometimes you can put a reinforcement in the strap, but if I'm gonna do a 4-fold strap and it's still pretty soft and my machine can handle a 4-fold strap, most definitely will need interface. And when I say that that type of vinyl is going to need interfacing, that's for the body of the bag that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about making your 4-fold strap any thicker by adding interfacing to that. I'm talking for the main body of the bag pieces, you'll want to add interfacing. And most vinyls can have feasible interfacings applied to them. You'll just want to do a test square to make sure that if it's got like an embossed type of print on the front, that you're not going to ruin that with your temperature setting or heat press or anything like that. Now, when it comes to leather, it does get a little bit more tricky to choose the right one. And everybody asks me, where do you get your leather? What kind of leather do you use? And that is all project dependent. If I'm making a slouchy hobo style bag, I want my leather to have a lot of drape. If I'm making a purse pal or a pocket pal that has multiple layers but is going to be a wallet, I want it to have nice temper. So the temper is more important to me on the leather, and the thinness and thickness. I mean, I could go for a 4 or 5 ounce leather that's super soft and drapey, or it's going to be really, really stiff. So there's the temper and then there's the thickness of the leather. There are two different things. So I find it hard to say, oh, buy this leather in this ounce and go. I personally have a really hard time ordering online because I want to unroll the hide. I want to look for holes. I want to look for brand marks. I want to look for all the things, and then I want to feel it. How drapey is it? Does it have nice temper? Is it stiff enough, thin enough for my project? It is project dependent, so it's not just a one size fits all, unfortunately. The other thing to consider with leather is if you're not buying a whole hide, you're buying a project piece or whatever, most companies will cut it off the hide and give you a great usable piece. The problem with leather is there is a lot of waste because there's different parts of the animal that are very, very stretchy or inconsistent and are not usable. If you're making like a high-end classy handbag, you're not going to want one with a brand mark on it. Now, if yours is a little more rustic, Western style, that brand mark is cool. You may want to add that as part of your project. So there's a lot to consider when it comes to leather. You have to first consider your project, then you got to consider what your machine can handle, and then you got to consider how many layers are in this project. If you're looking to get started into leather, my first tip would be to start off in vinyl. It acts and behaves very similarly to leather. You're going to need a leather needle, you're going to need a Teflon foot or a walking foot. You're going to learn through vinyl, which is less expensive than leather, and you're going to learn what your machine can handle, how many layers it can handle, the thickness, all that stuff before jumping into leather. Leather's going to take a lot of trial and error and practice, and unfortunately it can be quite expensive. So if you can find scrap pieces at like Hobby Lobby, those are great to start with. You can feel the thickness and what your machine can handle. Now, if you want to just start off, you saw a great product online or a big sale, if you're sewing on a domestic machine or you're brand new to leather, I would stick to about 2.5 ounces. It's probably the safest thickness to start with because that can handle multiple layers typically with your sewing machine, and you're not going to need to skive the edges. Now, when I say skive the edges, they have manual skivers or bell skivers that are electronic, but they shave the edge of the vinyl to make it thinner and to reduce bulk for your seam allowance. I haven't talked much about cork yet. It's probably because I don't work with it a whole lot, but cork is another phenomenal option for an eco-friendly option, or if you're opposed to leather for whatever personal reasons. Cork is a great substrate to work with. My number one recommendation would be to make sure you buy it from a reputable source, so they're getting it sourced a quality source over upholstery from Hobby Lobby. Don't do that in bag making. But as long as you're buying a good quality cork, it's an excellent option. And the great thing about that is it's a consistent thickness. So unless you're buying like an accessory weight or wallet weight cork, most cork manufacturers, it's the same. So there's not that learning curve that if I bought this cork in this color, that it wouldn't just carry over automatically to this other color. It's great. If you know your machine likes cork and you can handle the layers, that's nice. Vinyl, like I said, there's so many thicknesses and tempers just like leather. And then just like leather, there's same hide can be 4 ounces and then it tapers down to 2 ounces. So there's just huge learning curves with leather. So cork is a great option to start with, but it can be pricey. Okay, now that we've kind of covered the very general basis of leather, cork, and vinyl, let me show you specifics. Let me pull out some cork and vinyl and leather and show you what we're talking about. So let's start with the simplest, cork. It's got a fabric backing to it. This fabric backing is what can slightly fray on the edges over time, so you're just going to take a lighter and just quickly pass it over that to singe off any of that fabric backing. But it's got a really nice temper. Look, it just stands kind of up on its own. It doesn't have any stretch to it, so cutting card slots in a purse pal or a wallet, it's not stretching and giving you a jagged cut. It can fold very easily into multiple layers and very, very domestic machine friendly. So excellent option if you're sewing on a domestic machine or you're wanting to venture into leather or vinyl. It does make permanent holes when you do stitch through them, so it's going to give you practice on being really precise because you have to seam rip. You're going to see those holes, unfortunately. Next up, we have vinyl. So I have 3 very different types of vinyl, all from the same company. These are all back stitch vinyls. This one is really soft. As you can see, it is super drapey, almost no temper to it, because if you hold it on its edge, it's just going to flop. That's what I'm talking about with temper. 0 temper to this, and it also has quite a bit of stretch going one direction. So if I'm trying to cut a card slot as I'm dragging my X-Acto knife or even my cutting machine, it's going to stretch it, and you're going to have a really hard time making a pocket pal out of something like this. But now you're making a slouchy, drapey bag. Perfect for that. This is a vinyl that I would definitely recommend doing interfacing, mainly just to get rid of the stretch, okay? Now, this is their smooth. It's like a heavy smooth, and it's got more of a canvas backing, and it is stiff. Now, when I talk about temper, this has all of the temper. It'll just completely stand straight up. It's not drapey, has 0 stretch in either direction. Now, this would make a phenomenal pocket pal, purse pal, or a wallet. But you do have to be mindful. It is thicker. So I'm not going to really want to do more than maybe 2, max 3 layers on a domestic machine with this one. And then turning a bag through a small opening in the bottom or the pocket could be an issue because it is thicker. But just like any vinyl, you can always blast it with heat. It makes it nice and soft. And then it gives it a lot of drapeability. That helps with bag turning. And the last option here, this is their glow base. So I would say it also has a nice temper. It's kind of in between the thicker stuff and that drapey stuff. This is very domestic machine friendly. I do like it. Does not have barely any stretch in either direction. It will make a great wallet if you're cutting card slots, and it doesn't need interfacing. So these are the types of things that you want to think about when you're choosing your vinyl, your machine, and your project. In my last example, this is leather. So leather has a suede side, which is that unfinished soft side, and then the finished side here. Now there are different types of leather. There's chrome tan, there's veg tan, there's the different qualities of leather. There's full grain, top grain, bonded. All of those mean stuff and are important when it comes to the project you're making. So if you are pretty serious about leather, I would highly encourage you to kind of do more research on leather, what each of those terms mean, and how it will help you in your bag making. This is an example of a veg tan, and it's quite thick. It makes amazing straps. It can be tooled typically, meaning you can stamp it, you can carve it. Chrome tan, softer leather, you can't do any of those types of things with. You're not tooling this. You're not going to make costume masks out of the chrome tan softer stuff. Well, I hope that answers most of your guys' question and gives you the confidence to try vinyl, cork, and leather in your projects. If you have any other questions that I missed, feel free to leave a comment below and I will get back to you. Otherwise, if you have any other suggestions for videos you'd like me to cover in the future, also comment below. And please consider subscribing to my channel and liking this video. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time.